Hi, I'm Madison, and I'm 24 years old. I had just graduated with a business degree and returned to my parents' house in Willowdale, a place I swore I wouldn't live in again. My plan had always been clear: graduate, land a decent job, stay independent. But life had a different idea. Rent in the city was ridiculously high, and I didn't want to burden myself with debt right away. So I convinced myself that staying with my parents for 3 or 4 months would be fine, just long enough to save for a deposit on a modest apartment. I arrived on a gray April afternoon, dragging my weathered suitcase up the front porch of the same beige house I had grown up in. Nothing had changed. Same creaky steps, same chipped flower pots, same dull silence. My mom, Janet, greeted me at the door with a tight smile and a half-hearted hug, while my dad, Charles, barely looked up from the TV. Still, I smiled politely and reminded myself, just a few months. I unpacked in my childhood bedroom, which now felt more like a borrowed motel room than a place of comfort. But I had hope. A vision. Big windows, a quiet corner for reading, maybe even a hanging plant. I imagined sipping tea alone after work in a place that belonged to me. Surprisingly, within just 2 weeks, I landed a job as a retail operations assistant at a fashion supply company downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid $3,400 a month, and with performance bonuses, there was room to grow. I felt excited, even proud of myself. That night at dinner, Mom's usual tomato meatballs and boiled potatoes, I decided to share the news. I got the job, I announced, trying to keep my voice casual. Starting next Monday. It's with a company called Westcore Fashion Logistics. Not bad pay, and there's room for bonuses. The sound of forks and knives clinking on plates suddenly stopped. My mom looked up, expression unreadable. Are you planning to move out? I blinked. Not immediately. Maybe in 3 or 4 months. I want to save first. My parents exchanged a glance, that glance. The one that always meant there was something they weren't saying yet. My father cleared his throat. You know, your mother can only work part-time at the library now because of her back issues. And with the plant talking about layoffs again, my mom added with a sigh, it would be really helpful if you stayed a bit longer. It just makes more sense. For all of us. That was the moment I should have paid attention to the shift in tone, the pressure hidden behind polite words. But I didn't. I smiled and said, yeah, I guess I can stay a little longer. I had no idea I had just delayed my own freedom. At first, everything seemed fine. I woke up early, caught the morning bus to work, and spent my evenings eating dinner with my parents and watching local news in silence. I started contributing a little, paying the $180 electricity bill, buying weekly groceries that came to about $400, and throwing in $75 each month for internet. It felt like the right thing to do. I kept telling myself this was temporary. I even had a spreadsheet on my laptop titled Apartment Fund, where I tracked every dollar I saved. I had a plan. Save $3,000 and leave. But by the time the third month rolled into the fourth, things shifted. One Friday evening, I came home exhausted after spending 9 hours helping coordinate an inventory disaster at work. My shoulders ached, my feet were sore, and all I wanted was a shower and some quiet. Instead, I found my mom sitting in the living room with a large envelope on the table. You're home, she said, her tone too light. We need to talk. I didn't even get my shoes off before she slid the envelope toward me. Your father and I did some calculations. With your job, you should be able to contribute more. Water, gas, and groceries are going up. We just can't keep covering it all. I stood there frozen, still gripping my bag. But I already pay for most of the groceries. And I've been covering the electricity bill. That's just part of it, my dad chimed in, stepping out of the kitchen holding a $90 water bill. We're asking for a fixed contribution now, $800 a month starting next month. I felt something inside me sink. They had been waiting for the perfect moment, once I was earning, once I was stable, to tighten the leash. I told you. I replied carefully, I only plan to stay a few months. I'm trying to save to move. My father crossed his arms. Saving is good, but family is family. We've always supported you. Now it's your turn. His words felt like a verdict. I nodded, too tired to argue, and headed upstairs. That night, I stared at the ceiling and wondered how my plan had unraveled so quietly. Over the next few weeks, the pressure mounted. Casual conversations became veiled reminders. "This heating bill is brutal," Mom would say, waving a $130 invoice in front of me during dinner. If someone helped a little more, things wouldn't be so tight. I chewed my cold soup and stayed silent. Then came the insurance talk. One Saturday, while I was buried in reports for work, Mom entered my room with a warm smile and a cold motive. "We were thinking," she began gently, "you could help cover part of the family health insurance premium, just $200 or so. Health is everything." I blinked up at her. "I don't even have my own insurance yet." "You're young and healthy," she said dismissively. "You'll be fine." I stared at her, stunned. In that moment, I realized I had become the household wallet, not a daughter. That night, lying in bed with my laptop open to an apartment listing I couldn't afford anymore, I finally understood something painful. As long as I stayed here, I'd never be allowed to leave. I hadn't yet figured out a way to escape when, one quiet Sunday afternoon, chaos came knocking, quite literally. The front door swung open, letting in a gust of October wind and the familiar, high-pitched voice of my sister Monica. 8 years older than me, Monica had always been the golden child. Married to Kevin, mother to 2 energetic kids, and living 2 states away, she rarely visited, but when she did, the house transformed into a celebration. "Surprise," she sang, walking in with little Nora and Jack clinging to her legs and Kevin hauling in a mountain of overnight bags. My parents' faces lit up like Christmas morning. My mom immediately scooped up the kids, cooing as if they were angels sent from heaven. My dad turned off his football game, something he never did, just to greet Kevin with a handshake and a joke. The air buzzed with excitement, like royalty had arrived. "Madison, be a dear and grab a glass for Kevin," Mom said, not even looking at me. I put down the water I'd just poured for myself and fetched another glass, moving through the room like a ghost. I watched them from the corner of the kitchen, how they fussed over Monica, asking about her new neighborhood, the kids' private preschool, their upcoming trip to Florida for Christmas.
No one asked me about my job.
No one asked how my work at Westcor was going, or how I was managing back-to-back shifts and rising bills. Dinner that night was a shrine to Monica's perfection. My mom beamed when Monica mentioned that Nora was already reading at age 5. "Monica, you've raised such brilliant kids," Mom gushed. "You really are the best." I sat quietly, cutting my meatball into tiny pieces, my appetite disappearing with every word. Later, while I washed the dishes, Monica leaned against the counter sipping wine. "You're still living here?" she asked with a smirk, as if the idea was hilarious. "Yeah," I said, trying to keep calm. "Helping out with bills." "Well," she said casually, "lucky for them, they've got you." Her tone was sweet, but her words landed like thorns. That night, lying in my bed, I wasn't even sad, just numb. For as long as I could remember, I had always been second best. The stand-in, the helper, the afterthought. And if I didn't find a way out, I would stay that way forever. 2 weeks after Monica's surprise arrival, I came home from work to find our driveway packed with boxes and kids' toys. Kevin's SUV was parked out front, trunk open, as he hauled a baby stroller toward the porch. Inside, the house buzzed like a beehive. Nora and Jack ran circles around the living room, shrieking with laughter. My mom stood at the kitchen island, cutting up fruit. My dad adjusted a baby gate at the stairs. "What's going on?" I asked, confused. My mom smiled brightly, too brightly. "Oh, honey, we forgot to tell you. Monica and Kevin are going to stay with us for a little while." I froze. "Stay? Like overnight?" Kevin chimed in from the hallway, balancing a box. "Yeah, just until the house we bought finishes renovations. Shouldn't be more than a few weeks." My stomach dropped. Our 4-bedroom house already felt cramped, and now 4 more bodies were moving in full-time? "So, where are they sleeping?" I asked, the knot in my chest tightening. My dad cleared his throat. "Well, Nora and Jack need a safe space with toys, and Monica needs some peace. We think it's best if they take your room. I blinked. My room? Where am I supposed to sleep? You'll move into the storage room, Mom said quickly, as if rushing the words would soften them.
Just for a little while.
It'll be cozy once you clean it up. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I simply walked upstairs and opened the door to what had once been my sanctuary. It was already repainted in soft pastels. A toddler mattress lay in the center. Toys lined the windowsills. My books were boxed. My posters gone. My desk disassembled. It wasn't mine anymore. That weekend, I spent 8 hours cleaning out the dusty storage room. It smelled like mildew and old magazines. I squeezed in a twin mattress, a cheap lamp, and a foldable desk barely large enough for my laptop. No one offered to help. On Monday, I started my workday in that room, hunched over my keyboard while Jack banged plastic trucks against the wall and Nora shouted for her crayons outside my door. I felt like a stranger in my own life. That night, when I crept into the kitchen to find dinner leftovers, my mom smiled over her shoulder and said, "Madison, could you watch the kids tomorrow? Monica and Kevin have a meeting with the bank." I set down my fork. "I have work," I reminded her. "Just in the evening," she said sweetly. "A few hours. You're young. You can handle it." Her words settled in my chest like wet cement. For them, I wasn't a daughter. I was a built-in solution. A free service. I took my cold food back to the storage room and ate in silence. Every bite felt like swallowing resignation. From that day on, my job title unofficially changed from retail assistant to live-in nanny, unpaid, of course. Every weekday, I returned home from my actual job just to be handed the kids. "We're heading out for dinner," Monica would say while applying her lipstick in the hallway mirror. "Nora just had a snack, and Jack's a little cranky, so good luck." She'd hand me a list of things to do: bottle feed Jack, help Nora with her alphabet workbook, fold the laundry, clean up after dinner. The worst part? She didn't even ask anymore. She expected it. Weekends were even worse. While my friends from work went hiking, attended concerts, or posted brunch selfies, I was chasing a screaming toddler around the couch, wiping crayon marks off the wall, and cleaning up soggy cereal from the carpet. I once dared to ask for a Saturday to myself. Mom's reaction? Complete disbelief. "You can't just think about yourself all the time, Madison," she said, rubbing her temples like I'd given her a migraine. "Monica and Kevin need time to breathe. And who else will watch the kids if not you?" It wasn't a question.
It was a guilt-soaked command.
Meanwhile, Kevin, who claimed to be job hunting, spent most of his day sitting at the dining table playing mobile games, and Monica took long naps or scrolled social media. They acted like guests in a hotel they weren't paying for. I was still covering most of the bills. Groceries, $400 per month. Internet, $75 per month. Electricity, up to $230 per month, with the kids watching cartoons 24/7. Water and gas, around $150 per month combined. My savings account was stuck. My emotional energy?
Gone.
One Thursday, after a grueling 10-hour shift, I got home and found a message on the fridge. "Don't forget to cook something for the kids before 7. Kevin and I have date night. Back late. Love you, Monica." No one asked if I was tired, if I was hungry, if I had plans. That night, I sat at the kitchen table after cleaning up mac and cheese from the floor and folding 3 loads of toddler laundry. I stared at the empty space in front of me and asked myself, how did I become the servant in a house I was supposed to leave months ago? The answer was simple.
Because I never said no.
But that was about to change. The emotional exhaustion soon spiraled into something worse: financial suffocation. My next paycheck came, and for the first time since I started working, I had less than $300 left after covering my share of the house expenses. I reviewed the breakdown in disbelief. Groceries, $400. Internet, $75. Electric, $230. A gas and water, $150. Household supplies, cleaners, diapers, kids' snacks, $150. Total, $1,005 gone. My rent fund, stuck at $1,600, far from my goal of $3,000. One evening after work, I finally mustered the courage to bring it up at dinner. I laid the electric bill on the table, hands trembling slightly. "We need to talk about the bills," I said, trying to sound calm. "I can't keep paying for everything by myself." Monica looked up from her phone, visibly annoyed. "Is this really the time, Madison? You know Kevin and I are going through a rough patch." Kevin leaned back in his chair and scoffed. "She's nickel-and-diming her own family." My mother gave me that look, the one filled with practiced disappointment. "Sweetheart, family helps each other during hard times. We all make sacrifices." My father sighed deeply, as if I were burdening him. "When you needed us, we didn't count every dollar." I clenched my fists under the table. I was in college then. I didn't have a job. This is different. I'm working full-time and still can't save. Kevin smirked and muttered under his breath, "What's a single girl even saving for?" That stung. I stood up, chair scraping sharply against the floor. "I get it," I said coldly. "I'll handle my part. The rest? You can figure it out yourselves." No one said anything. I walked away and shut myself in the storage room, the glorified closet that was now my bedroom. My breathing was shallow, but I felt a strange clarity. I couldn't keep living like this. And if I didn't do something soon, I'd lose whatever was left of my identity. That night, for the first time in months, I opened my laptop and typed a search I'd been afraid to make. Studio apartments near Willowdale, move-in ready. I didn't know exactly when I'd leave, but I knew this. I was done being their doormat. Just as my mind was clearing and a plan was forming, Monica decided to drop the final weight on my shoulders. It was Friday night. I had just gotten home from work, changed into sweatpants, and was heating up leftover pasta when I heard Monica's chirpy voice from the living room. "Hey, Maddie. Kevin and I are going to check out model homes tomorrow morning. Can you keep an eye on the kids again?" I didn't even turn around. "No, I can't. I'm going skiing with Brooke and some college friends this weekend." Silence. Then footsteps. Monica appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in her blouse and heels, holding a smoothie like nothing was wrong. "You're what?" she asked, smiling but blinking too quickly. "I'm going away for the weekend," I said again, looking her square in the eyes. "I need a break. I'm not your babysitter. You can't just leave like that. It's a family weekend." I laughed softly, more out of disbelief than anything.
No.
"It's your weekend. Your plan. Your kids. Not mine." She stormed off. Minutes later, I was summoned to the living room, my parents seated on the couch like a jury. Monica and Kevin stood nearby, arms crossed, faces tight with disgust. "What's this I hear about you abandoning the family?" Mom's voice trembled with emotion, or perhaps just control. "You're seriously choosing some vacation over helping your sister?" my dad asked, rising to his feet. "She's going through so much." "I've been helping for months," I replied firmly. "And now I need time for myself." "You're being selfish," Monica snapped. "If you leave tomorrow, don't bother coming back." That was it. The tension cracked wide open. I took a deep breath. "Fine," I said. "I won't." My father, Charles, stepped forward, his eyes filled with fury. "Don't talk back to your mother and sister like that," he growled. Before I could step away, his hand flew. He slapped me across the face. It wasn't just the sting. It was the sound, the moment, the sharp, echoing violence that finally made the truth undeniable. I stood there frozen, one side of my cheek burning, but my eyes, clear and calm, stared right back at him. Everyone else went still. No one spoke. No one apologized. That moment didn't break me. It freed me. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply turned and walked to my room. My hands were steady as I grabbed my backpack, laptop, charger, and wallet. I packed only what mattered. As I passed the living room again, I paused. "You just made this decision very easy," I said quietly. "Don't expect me to come back." My mom opened her mouth to speak, perhaps to beg, perhaps to blame, but I was already halfway out the door. I drove straight to Brooke's apartment on the edge of town. The winter air outside was bitter, but it felt better than the air in that house ever had. When I arrived, she opened the door in fuzzy socks and a blanket over her shoulders. She didn't ask questions. She just handed me a steaming mug of cocoa and pulled me into a long, silent hug. That night, I curled up on her couch while the city lights flickered through her blinds. I felt everything: shame, relief, sadness, clarity. I touched the side of my face where my father had slapped me and felt a dull ache, but also a strange power rising beneath it. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. I poured myself coffee in the tiny kitchen and watched the city wake up, and for the first time in months, I felt free. Around noon, after our ski trip was officially booked, I told Brooke I had one more thing to do before we left. I drove back to my parents' house. This time, not as a daughter. As I stepped inside, my entire family was gathered in the living room, like they were expecting a dramatic apology. My mom's arms were crossed. My dad sat stiffly in his recliner. Monica looked smug, and Kevin wore that same half-smile I had come to despise. "I'm not here to argue," I began calmly. "I'm here to get the rest of my things." My mom stood up. "Madison, please." "No." I cut her off, firm but measured. "You had your chance. I've been your provider, your nanny, your punching bag. I'm not doing it anymore." My dad's face flushed. "Don't turn this into something dramatic. You're part of this family." I looked at him. Real family doesn't exploit the one person holding everything together. Real family doesn't slap their daughter for setting boundaries.
No one had a response to that.
I went upstairs and packed my remaining clothes, my notebooks, my college diploma, and the framed photo of me and Brooke at graduation. I didn't take much, just what was mine. On my way down, Monica tried one last guilt trip. "You're really walking away? From your family?" I paused at the bottom of the stairs and said quietly, "I'm walking toward myself." As I stepped outside, my mom reached out, grabbing my arm with desperation in her eyes. "You'll regret this. Please just think about it." I gently pulled free.
No, Mom.
I'd regret staying. The door clicked shut behind me. No slamming, no shouting, just finality. I walked to my car, started the engine, and drove away without looking back. My phone buzzed with missed calls and frantic messages. I turned it off. Back at Brooke's apartment, I unpacked my small bag and finally allowed myself to breathe. That night, we sat on her balcony wrapped in warm blankets, sharing pizza and laughing about things that had nothing to do with bills, babysitting, or emotional blackmail. The next morning, my phone lit up with over 30 missed calls.
Mom.
Dad. Monica. Even Kevin had texted. "At the very least, you should be grateful to the people who raised you." Another message from my mother read, "Your father and I are devastated. Please don't break this family apart." I didn't reply. I watched the screen flicker, then fade to black. Then I opened my contacts one by one, blocked them all. After that, I went to my social media accounts. One by one, I unfriended, unfollowed, and unfollowed back anyone who might serve as a bridge for their guilt trips to reach me again. The act felt terrifying at first, like sawing off my own hand. But once done, I felt weightless. That week, I visited 3 apartment buildings. On Thursday, I signed a lease for a small studio apartment just 15 minutes from my job. It had a creaky floor, mismatched cabinets, and a heater that hummed like an old truck, but it was mine. Rent, $950 per month. Utilities, $120 per month. Peace of mind, priceless. I spent the weekend cleaning the place, hanging up string lights, putting my books on a thrifted shelf, and buying a soft new blanket for my bed. I even printed a photo of myself, smiling at the lake from last summer, and taped it on the wall. That Monday, I woke up to sunlight pouring in through the blinds, birds outside, and total silence inside. No screaming kids. No slamming doors. No guilt-tripping sighs. No one calling my name just to hand me a chore. Just the sound of the city and the taste of coffee I made for myself. I looked around and whispered to no one in particular, "This is what peace feels like." And for the first time in what felt like forever, I smiled without guilt. Weeks passed, and I rebuilt myself one day at a time. I adjusted my budget. No more $1,000 disappearing on bills I didn't know. I began saving again. I treated myself to a new pair of shoes. I cooked slow dinners with music playing. I took long walks after work and signed up for a weekend yoga class. I even enrolled in a local baking course, something I always wanted to do, but never had the time or space for. My life had changed. And so had theirs. Through the grapevine, old school friends and neighbors, I began hearing whispers about the household I had left behind. The bills were piling up. The internet had been cut off for 2 weeks. Groceries were being stretched thin. Monica had started borrowing money from relatives. Kevin was still unemployed and blaming the economy. My dad's back pain was worse. My mom was working extra hours at the library. The house, once buzzing with entitlement, was now crumbling under the weight of their own expectations, without me to hold it up. Then came the inevitable. One evening, as I stepped out of my yoga class, I found 3 new voicemails from a private number, their voices still so familiar, yet now distant like echoes. Madison, things aren't easy here. We miss you. Nora keeps asking for her auntie. Don't you feel any responsibility? This family can't stay broken forever. You have to come back. You're still one of us. But I wasn't. Not anymore. I played the messages once, then deleted them all. The next morning, I stood at my window, sipping coffee. A soft breeze fluttered through the curtains. The sun bathed the city below in gold. And I felt nothing but peace. I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel torn. I didn't feel like the selfish daughter they used to call me. I felt free. I opened my notebook, the same one I'd bought from the little bookstore on my first day of independence, and turned to a fresh page. With my favorite pen, I wrote, I don't owe them my life just because they gave me birth. I don't owe them my soul because they once packed my lunch. I owe myself peace. I owe myself love. And I'm finally giving it to me. From that day forward, I stopped tracking their messages. I stopped checking mutual friends' updates or wondering if they had figured things out. I didn't need closure from them, because I had given it to myself. I focused on work, where my performance improved dramatically. My manager noticed and offered me the chance to assist with a new logistics campaign, something that could turn into a promotion. For the first time, I said yes without wondering if my evenings would be hijacked by toddler tantrums or surprise family drama. I spent my weekends how I wanted, baking cinnamon rolls for my neighbors, reading on park benches with no time limits, watching old movies under a warm throw with no one yelling over the TV, journaling my thoughts without needing permission to feel them. One afternoon, while strolling through the little shopping plaza near my apartment, I ran into Brooke. She was on her way to meet some old college friends and invited me to join. I said yes instantly. No guilt, no excuses, no invisible leash. We laughed, reminisced, made plans to travel, and I realized something vital. The world didn't stop when I chose myself. In fact, it finally started moving. Yes, there were moments when my mind wandered back. There were nights I lay in bed and remembered the sound of Nora's giggle or the smell of my mom's tomato meatballs. But those memories didn't pull me under anymore. They floated by like gentle waves, no longer tidal forces dragging me back into chaos. I used to believe that love meant self-sacrifice, that the only way to matter was to serve, that being a good daughter meant enduring it all. But I was wrong. Love, real love, isn't meant to break you. It's meant to build you. And the love I was finally learning to give was to myself. Spring arrived slowly, wrapping the city in warmth and color. I opened my windows to let in the fresh air, letting it carry away what little traces of my old life still lingered. I was no longer the girl who lived in a storage room, no longer the girl who kept quiet at the dinner table, no longer the girl who feared being called selfish for choosing herself. I was Madison, 24, independent, peaceful,
Free.
My apartment wasn't perfect. There were still cracked tiles in the kitchen and a stubborn faucet in the bathroom, but it was mine. It was the first space I had ever lived in where I wasn't walking on eggshells. where I didn't need to perform for approval or earn affection through obedience. One evening, as I sipped tea beside my window and watched people walking their dogs, laughing, going about their lives, I reflected on how far I'd come. No one had rescued me. No court order had forced change. No family apology had arrived. I rescued myself. I turned pain into distance, distance into silence, silence into space, and space into something beautiful, a life. Later that week, I bought a new notebook, a pale blue hardcover with silver edges. On the first page, I wrote, "This is my new beginning. The next chapter belongs to me, not to my guilt, not to their expectations. Just me, Madison." And with that, I closed the last page of the story I had once been trapped in and opened the one I was finally free to write. Thanks for watching. If this story touched your heart or made you think, don't forget to like the video and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. We post true life inspired stories just like this one every week, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us keep telling stories that matter.